What is up, everybody? Welcome to the TDR Show. We are back. Me and Jay Stein here. We're talking little Dynasty, Devy, all above here on the show. Today, we have a fun one. So last week, we talked about who could be the next Dynasty wide receiver one, quarterback, running back, tight end. But this week, we decided to go a little deeper here. We are a Devy show. We do Devy on this platform, or at least college football. And we decided let's do that for the classes coming up. So what we're going to look at is the consensus top 5 for, when you're looking at quarterbacks and running backs, and then top 10 for wide receivers. We'll even throw in some tight ends. But for the class of the 26th class, and then who could be that outside guy that pops off? We've seen this multiple times. You could even say Shedeur Sanders is one of those guys, or Cam Ward. Like, those guys come out of nowhere and become that top guy in that class. And then we're going to be looking at the 27, 28 classes as well. Just looking for some guys that, outside of those ranges could be that next Devy value, right? Or that next rookie value there. And if you just play Dynasty, this is a good chance to start learning some guys' names, start understanding kind of where the value is. Like always, we'll always talk about value of the classes and how they are perceived out there. So we'll talk about that value as it goes. So that's what we'll be covering on the show today. Stick with us after the intro and we'll have some fun. All right, so like I said, we got who has next, who's that going to be, and just to show you how our barometers or parameters or however you want to say it in terms of what we're looking at. If they're in the top 5, we can't pick them. So in the quarterbacks of the top 5, we can't pick them. Running backs, we did 5 this time for Devy. 10's a little rough out there in the streets, as you found out from the Dynasty realm. So we stuck with 5 there for each class. Wide receiver, though, we did go outside top 10, which is fun. I think it's fun to kind of identify some guys outside those top 10 rankings right now that we like there. Tight ends, we did top 5 with a caveat. We're not really necessarily doing 27, 28. We're going to give you some guys to watch. But I don't know. Tight ends suck. All right, listen, tight ends and then Devy, especially that low, they are tough there. But we are going to start us off here with the 26 quarterback class. So, and Arch is in that class. So Arch Manning is number 1 in our rankings. And just so everybody knows, most people think that Arch is going to be coming out in 2027. That's what like his family has said. He hasn't necessarily said that, but that is the role. But that doesn't, we're not going off of that. He is designated 2026. So for now, he stays there. Then we have Drew Aller, Nico, Lenore Sellers, and Garrett Nussmeier. So those are our top 5. So we couldn't pick those 5, right? And which was tough because I thought I'd be able to grab the Lenoris in there. And some might have Lenoris a little higher than Drew Aller and Nico and those guys too. So some of the guys coming up that we could have picked from, Sam Levitt, Jackson Arnold, Dante Moore, Cade Klubnik, Avery Johnson, or could have gone off the board. I've seen some Darian Mensah kind of love out there. I've seen some new Duke quarterback. I've seen some love all across the board there. But let's get into our 2 picks here. Jay, was it easy? We're going to go with Jay's pick first, and he'll let us know who that is. But was this process easy for you? How did you feel about the 26th class?
No, I think that next group of players, I think it was hard to pick between those guys. I think Sam Levitt is pretty interesting. I like him from a numbers perspective. I think Dante Moore is one that really could click because they have a really good wide receiver room. We've seen Oregon quarterbacks transfer and do well there. Dante Moore was a really good recruit coming out of high school. I think if it starts clicking, I think he could be one that jumps. But the guy that I went with was Cade Klubnik. And a lot of that has to do with how high I value the pass catchers at Clemson. I think that this is the second best wide receiver room in the country behind maybe Ohio State, with TJ Moore, Bryant Westco, Antonio Williams, Tyler Brown. I think this is an incredible team. And guess what? We're rolling it back, right? So he played with all these guys last year. So the chemistry is probably only going to get better. So what I'd say is Klubnik started off really good, really well his first year, kind of had a down year. And then year 3 last year, 2024 was a good year. He's 6'2", 210, and this will be his 4th year. So already not that early to clear, but at quarterback, it doesn't matter as much. I really do prefer the 4th year guys over the 5th year guys. But 4th year, not a deal killer. But like I said, 2024 was much better than I think, what the consensus view of it was from him. So he had a 87.7 PFF pass grade, which was QB5 on the year. He was 10th in total pass yards for about 260 pass yards per game, third in total TDs. He had 36 TDs, and he was just behind Cam Ward. I think he was at 39 for the season, and Shadur Sanders. So he's number 3 in TDs there. His big time throw percentage was above 5%. His turnover worthy play percentage was below 2.5%. His pressure to sack ratio, 15%, well below the penalty threshold that I have for around 20%, 21%-ish. Time to throw was well below 3 seconds at 2.64, so nothing really to worry about there. His experience-adjusted metrics that I look at really highly on an age-adjusted basis, QBR was above the line for year 3. Rush yards market share above the line for year 3. The adjusted yards per attempt was kind of at the line, maybe slightly below it, and EPA play was a little bit below the line. Again, this is a sort of a rollback situation. The OC there is Garrett Riley at Clemson. I think that I think Cade is sort of kind of set for a takeoff this year. I think he can have a giant year with these pass catchers. Because there's really all 4 of these guys might be unguardable to an extent. You focus up on TJ Moore, then Bryant Wesco gets free. You focus up on TJ Moore and Bryant Wesco, then Antonio Williams is getting free, and they're all really, really good wide receivers. So I just think that this is kind of the setup for, one of those huge risers, statistical risers, because what we're hearing is maybe Heisman, because this is a really good setup for him at this place. So I like Cade for this year. I think he could be one of those guys that jumps. I had a hard time picking between Sam Levitt, Dante Moore. I think a lot these guys that you mentioned, I think a lot of them have a shot. Just can you connect? And the real point of emphasis I'll make here is Cade's doing it with the same 3-4 pass catches in the same offense, and he already had a good year 3. So it's just sort of repeat, get better type of thing for him this year, and I think he can vault up, and that's why I think maybe he could be the surprise guy for this class. Arch doesn't come out this year, and Klubnik just goes off. Maybe there's a shot that he's a surprise guy.
Yeah, I mean, I think QB1 is wide open if Arch doesn't come out, because there's question marks for all 4 of the other guys. Aller, you're either in on all or not. We've talked about it enough to where it's and Jay's in. I have my toe in, like my toe is creeping in there. I see the tools, right? But he could fall off. Nico, if he struggles at Tennessee, could come back another year. Lenoris has question marks as a passer. Nussmeier, Garrett Nussmeier could be QB1, but again, like turnovers and all that, which you could say for Cade too. I do want to bring up a point for those of you guys listening out there, and just a little tidbit out there. The kid that's been tearing it up in camp is Tyler Brown, wide receiver at Clemson. He was injured last year. All I keep reading on 247 on the premium subscribers and all of that, like they're kind of beat reporters out there, they are pounding the table for Tyler freaking Brown. Like they say this kid is like phenomenal. That's going to help out Klubnik. I think the one thing you could say if you're worried about Klubnik is if he doesn't develop, because he's still got to develop a little bit. If he doesn't progress from a turnover perspective, like if he doesn't progress there, then this could be his ceiling. Like he is who he is. He's a backup QB at this level, or at the NFL level, right? Like a very serviceable starter there. But he does have all the makings for a 1 rise, right? He does have that. If Arch doesn't come out, right? Now my guy, I was off the board here a little bit. I could not figure out who to pick. I was going to pick Klubnik, but you got in there anyway. And you were like, and I didn't really want to pick a Clemson quarterback because I just can't do it. I almost went Dante Moore for upside, but we just don't know what that is, right? And it's probably going to be 2 years. I also, in my head, I'm like, well, he's probably going to be there a couple years. So I went Avery Johnson from Kansas State. And I think that Avery's an interesting prospect because he's big enough. He's gotten his size back up. He's 6'2", and I think he doesn't play like he's 6'2", but he is 6'2", listed. I don't know what he plays at. 192 is something that you want to see him get up a little bit in terms of his weight, but he has improved that. So at Kansas State, he obviously played a little his freshman year. He was playing behind Will Howard out there. 37-66 through 479 yards and 5 touchdowns. This last year is a full-time starter. 2,700 yards, 25 touchdowns, the 10 picks. But what do we like in fantasy? We love rushing upside. And so 605 yards and 7 touchdowns. So he has 14 rushing touchdowns the last 2 years. That is something to know when you're talking about it. Now, the only time we get that rushing upside is if he makes the NFL. So, like, that's also what you got to worry about is his progressions here. When you're looking at just some of the numbers that kind of pop off, or just, are they good or aren't they? Passing grade, PFF passing grade was 73.7, which isn't amazing, but did have some big moments, some big games there. From a passing perspective, that's the area, like, you're basically what I'm talking here is he's going to grow. He's going to have that development to his third year that you really like to see him take that jump, right? You'd love to get him in that 80 passing grade where he's at a 73, see that big percentage jump, but did improve down a stretch. There were some games that I thought that he looked pretty good. Iowa State, completion percentages all across the board, but made big plays when it mattered. Like Cincinnati, another game where he was really good. He struggled against a couple top defenses down there, and he definitely took his lumps. But I do like his ADOT almost over 10. I like his ability to kind of obviously be a rushing quarterback. He does that. They call his number a ton there, but doesn't need to develop as a passer. So I'll be the first to admit, like when you're looking at his profile and everything, passing wise, he's got to improve there. But he does have the skills to be a legitimate passer. Like when you watch the tape, I think he can get the ball at all different levels. I think he does have arm strength. I think the thing that he struggles with the most is his accuracy. That's one area on it. But on the run, extending plays, doing all that fun stuff, he's a lot of fun. And I'm going to be careful with this, but the comp I have for him is Russell Wilson when he was in college. Like Russell Wilson, maybe faster though. Like definitely has that more of the rushing upside there, but I see it with him. So could take that next step. Probably is another year guy. But I'll take Avery Johnson here from Kansas State.
Yeah, when I watch him play, first I noticed the locks coming out of the back of his helmet, but he is electric rushing the football.
Yeah.
He's got kind of like to me, it looks like a little like the silky smoothness, the stuff that Lamar Jackson does when he's rolling out of the pocket, when he's moving out. And then he just takes off, and he is so electric on the ground. It's just quite amazing. It's really, really fun to watch. And I like JC Brown. I think this is a guy that that could really vault up as well. And so I like the pick. I think any of these guys you could potentially make a case for a lot of these guys. But yeah, great pick. And that rushing ability is phenomenal. It's really, really cool. He's a highlight reel when you're watching him play.
They also got this kid didn't do anything last year for Texas Tech, but Jerron Bradley coming there too. So you got JC Brown, Jerron Bradley, Dylan Edwards is there, who I think is going to be a lot of fun from the running back perspective for him. So like there's opportunities for that offense to get much better. And I think Avery could do it right now. These are long shots. Johnson from a athletic profile, great. And Devy, do I feel comfortable drafting him? No, not really. Like I get a little nervous just because just overall as a Devy quarterback. But I do think that I like the offense that they're in. If he shows that development, that's what you're betting on. And as far as like the 26 class quarterbacks, there's a lot of question marks. Don't get me wrong. But I was listening to Todd McShay's podcast recently, and he was talking about like, hey, I don't ever want to bottle myself into thinking a class is not good, because sometimes you see like Michael Penix Jr. and Bo Nix go in the top 15. And he's right. Like he is right about the quarterback. Sometimes things happen where you're like, oh yeah, like that class, this could be a class that has a couple of these guys that all of a sudden do go because of their athleticism profile, or K Club that takes that next step, be a first round guys. And that's what you're looking for. You're just looking for value.
Yeah, and obviously, if we're, if we were given the choice to try and pick who's going to be QB1, and we were allowed to use the top 5 guys, of course we're going to be picking those top guys. But the point of this exercise is to go down a little bit further. And we've hit on Sam Levitt, we've hit on some of these guys before. We haven't hit on Cade Klubnik or Avery Johnson that much. So it's nice to get those guys some love and show them that these guys could be risers as well.
Yeah, we got to talk about some other guys or we go crazy here. All right, let's jump into the next two classes, 27 and 28. So we're already including incoming freshmen, which we do have in our rankings and our Dynasty Devy rankings that you can find on our Patreon. Here's the top 5 in both of these combined classes here. DJ Lagway, Julian Sayin at 2, Dylan Raiola at 3, Keelan Russell, Alabama quarterback at 4, and then Bryce Underwood from Michigan sitting there at 5. So we could have taken anybody. So some of the possibilities that we threw out there, Trey Owens, Tavion St. Clair, Damon Williams, Houston Longstreet, Deuce Knight, Luke Hoke, I put in there Malik Washington and some of these other guys here. This is an interesting group because there's some guys that haven't played yet. Julian Sayin hasn't played. We've talked about him enough. Obviously, Keelan Russell is battling right now as Alabama in the spring game. or the spring practices. It does seem like he's going to need some time from what I've been reading. Like Ty Simpson kind of looks like he's taking that job. Bryce Underwood probably going to get thrown in there. If you watch Mikey King play football, you better play Bryce Underwood because I've watched Mikey King play too much Fresno State football out here. So it's interesting. These classes are fun here. So who did you take? We both took true freshmen. So we both took 228 classes. That's cheating a little bit. But who did you take?
Yeah, this guy isn't necessarily at the top of my rankings for the freshman, but I'm taking Deuce Knight at Auburn, and this is a really really cool recruit coming into Auburn. He's 6'4", 213 pound. This will be his first year. He's already on campus, getting rave reviews there. He's a lefty quarterback. If you didn't know that. I think might be a little bit of a spicy take, but I think Auburn might have the third best wide receiver room. I gave Ohio State, then I said Clemson, and now I'm thinking Auburn is next. Now there's some really, really nice wide receiver rooms at Alabama, at Oregon, at LSU. But my hot take is I think this is the third best one, with Cam Coleman, Eric Singleton Jr. transferring over, Malcolm Simmons and Perry Thompson, and a few other guys there as well. So I like that. What I'd say about Deuce, he's a dual threat guy. He can really really throw the ball. He like Kevin usually says, probably could work a little bit on the accuracy. He's a member of the 247's 2025 freak list. Apparently he can jump really really far. He's a 2-time state champion in the long jump. And, when it gets to be combine time, he'll probably maybe set some records there. And in 2024, he did miss a few games, but he ended up stats-wise was 100 for 165 and threw for 2,000 yards, 25 TDs and 5 INTs. He also carried the ball for 450 yards and 12 touchdowns in that final year in 2024. I'd say the setup here for him is kind of like what DJ Lagway was last year, and maybe kind of what I likened a little bit to Keelan Russell on the QB show when we were talking about the young guys. But you got 2 transfers in at Auburn. Ashton Daniels isn't playing that much right now during spring ball, but it's Jackson Arnold and Deuce Knight, and they're getting the majority of the reps right now. And what I'd say is Arnold is a fairly regarded, but it didn't work out, and he transferred here. And yes, if he takes the starting job and he goes with it, there's a lot of upside there from him. I like him a lot. But I do think early in spring ball, Deuce is pushing him right now as we speak, to be the starter for this team come the fall, because he has hit the ground ready to go. He has come in and he's hit the ground running. He's making big time throws all over the field. And the coach even called him mature. Like, he knows what he's doing out there. And if you go and look at some of the highlight reels from spring ball, he's really, really, really looking good. So I think honestly, this is one of those situations where, 6'4", 213, maybe heavier as he puts on weight through the next couple years. I think you got to get him on the field. Even if Jackson Arnold is your starter, even if you have to do the design runs, I think he gets on the field, and I think he gets on the field early in 2025. So I like his ability to kind of vault up to be one of those guys that vaults up into that top 5 of these 2 classes, of these underclassmen. And it's just an incredible physical profile. Yeah. You liken it to DJ Lagway, Lenore Sellers, stuff like that kind of stuff. It's hard to keep those guys off the field, and you just hope that passing game really develops, but he's got all the tools there to really make a run at it.
Yeah, no, 100%. Here's, when I was going through Deuce Knight's tape, for those of you that don't know, 6'4", 206, right? He's a big guy. And you heard the raw numbers and just the athleticism and all that kind of stuff that you see there. I mean, his upside is undeniable, right? Like it's just his dual threat stuff in Hugh Freeze's system. He could be their offense the next 3 years, right? Like, or next 2 years after, or even this year, as Jay talked about with Jackson Arnold there. And you love what they're building around them, like the offense around him, the wide receiver room. We talked about their O-line play is really strong, like very riddled with upperclassmen. which you like to see there. And I think that if he can refine some of his accuracy, decision-making stuff, which he will, especially decision-making, that'll come in time, man, he's got NFL upside. Like this class is a lot of fun. Like he's got like, hey, Deuce Knight can be QB1-ish. He'll battle Bryce Underwood. He'll battle some of these other guys that are in there. Tavion St. Clair, he'll battle Keelan Russell, those type of guys. Like if Keelan Russell was in this body, oh my Jesus, with that arm, like it would be like, it's incredible. But Deuce Knight has the arm. He just needs to get the accuracy part of it. I love the call there. The kid that I picked was Malik Washington from Maryland. Same kind of toolsy, 6'4", 215. Yep. Massive get for Maryland, just massive. They have Justin Martin there. He transferred from UCLA. He's coming over there. But man, let me tell you what, this kid, Malik Washington, he could play a little bit. Led his team to 3 state titles, championship, basically looking at kind of where we needed to go there. 3,000 passing yards, 29 touchdowns his senior year. Oh, and as a passer, man, just smooth, like quick release, gets it out of structure really well. Very capable runner, like not necessarily to the level of Deuce, but when you think of like what Malik Washington can do well, he can, operate. He can operate from the pocket really well, but he can get out of the side of the pocket and make things happen too. But I think the one thing that stood out for me with Malik, and I need to probably have Malik higher. It's just hard. This 28 quarterback class is a lot of fun. You could easily put Malik at 3, I think, or Deuce at 3 and 4, whatever. Because from just an athleticism perspective, man, he checks a lot of the boxes. And in the poise under pressure, the one thing that Malik Washington does really well, when defenses came at him, his ability to kind of get the ball where he needs to go, second, third reads, things that you don't really see high school quarterbacks doing. Malik does those things, right? And here's the other one, and this is what Jay loves. That depth chart is wide open at Maryland. Like, Martin is okay. Justin Martin is okay, but there's a reason why he transferred and didn't really play at UCLA. There's some issues there. Malik can start. Like, he's not a developmental project. Dude can just start. Like, he can be a multi-year starter. That's why I talked about him being intriguing in like C2C formats and supplemental drafts, those type of things, because he could come in there and go right away. Now, will he finish career Maryland? I don't think so. I think he's going to be going somewhere else. I think NIL, I think they could lose their head coach after this year if they struggle. But this is the kind of kid you can build a program around. Like, Malik Washington has that. And I think that we could be talking about him. Like, if he gets out earlier, all right, I think Bryce is going to be out there for Michigan. I don't think Keelan Russell is going to be. I don't think Tavion St. Clair is going to be. I don't know about Deuce Knight. Like we just mentioned, if Jackson Arnold plays well enough, he probably won't get out there. Malik has the opportunity of these groups to get out there, right? That's going to go a long way to going up to number 1, number 2, and battling for that spot there. So my guy's Malik, and I'm probably too low on him. I need to jump him up in my rankings too, to be honest with you. I need to put him up higher.
Yeah, another great like physical tools. Like you have the physical tools to get to the NFL. That's like your first check mark. Now, can you get there? Can you put the production up on the field to show that? And you mentioned the program, Maryland. What are the pass catchers at Maryland? Can you name a couple of them? I'm not sure. But here's the thing that I'd say is that, if he goes off, he starts this season, he has a good year, then with the transfer portal, you get players that want to come and play with this guy. Yeah. And the other thing I'd mention in terms of transferring, I think he's a Maryland guy, right? So he picked Maryland, he's from Maryland. So maybe, like you get a Devin Neal type of situation where he clearly has the opportunity where he plays well. He clearly has the opportunity to go play for a big program, but he wants to kind of build Maryland up. And that in that case, you're hoping for transfers in to the program at pass catcher, because the offense is able to put up pass catchers. Last year, you had Caden Prather and Ty Felton, who with Billy Edwards had great seasons at wide receiver. Yeah. And so it's possible there at Maryland to do well. I think Jaleel Farouk.
Yeah, don't be
liked at times.
Guy Farouk. I was about to bring it up right now. Don't merchandise. Had opportunities, been injured. Yeah. Caleb Webb transferred too. Like it's not barren out there.
Maybe we'll see.
It's a little barren, but if Malik can do that and get out there, 100%. I'm with you there. I think, that does matter too. And Maryland's got money. Like they have NIL money. Like they have NIL money there to keep them. And that's just something to know. All right, let's jump over to running backs. So let's talk about the 26 running back class first. So let's go in there. Our top 5 consensus. Jeremiah Love, Nick Singleton, Darius Taylor, CJ Baxter Jr., Justice Haynes still sitting there. So those are the guys that we couldn't pick here to possibly get up into that one spot. Some other guys that could be picked: Jonah Coleman, Jay Knott, Desmond Reed from Pittsburgh, Mekhi Hughes from Oregon, Katron Allen, Penn State, Jam Miller's out there. I went completely off the board on there. I try to get a little deeper here. Jay took chalk because that's just what Jay does. No, I'm just kidding. Jay took Jonah Coleman out there in Washington. So tell me about Jonah. Tell me about these running backs as a whole. Was this one hard for you?
Yeah, the reason I picked Jonah Coleman is because I'm an analytics based process, numbers based process, and I think Jonah Coleman gets overlooked quite a bit. We do these like Devy mock drafts, and Jonah Coleman always in the 5th round. Yeah. Sometimes even later than that. People just forget that he's that good. I kind of like Darius Taylor as well. I have no idea why Darius Taylor gets drafted a round and a half after Jeremiah Love. Because I think Darius Taylor's, if I had to put him in the same bucket, I'd say Darius Taylor's a little bit better than in terms of my rankings of how I do over Jeremiah Love. Jonah Coleman all the way in the 5th round, steal. Honestly, a steal in the 5th round. So I think a lot of these other running backs get selected ahead of him in lower classes in this class. But his numbers are really, really good. He's 5'9", 229 pounds. This will be his 4th year. He in the middle of his career, he transferred from Arizona to Washington. Last year, 394 attempts. Year 3, he was RB22 in PFF rush grade at 87.7. 17th in yards after contact per attempt at 4.34 in year 3, and an average career of greater than 4. He averaged 4 yards per carry after contact for his entire career. He was 12th in missed tackles forced, and his missed tackles forced per attempt is 35%, well over 30%, which is a huge level for me if you get over that 30% mark. In his career, he averages over 30% of missed tackles forced. He has an incredible elusive rating, largely because of the yards after contact and the missed tackle force. Last year it was 153.4. His experience adjusted metrics, yards per team play, he was above the line in year 2, year 3. Below the line, but close to the line in receptions in year 2 and 3, and way above the line in rush yards are expected per attempt in year 2 and 3. The thing that I would say differentiates my positions from a couple months ago is Jed Fish came out and made some comments. He did this at the end of last season, but he's making them again this spring. This guy is a leader and a role model within the program. And he thinks that Coleman's one of the best running backs in the country. He is singing his high praises throughout this spring. And I think what they're going to do is I think they're going to feed him the ball this year. Not that they haven't in the past, but I do think that they're going to feed him the ball this year. This could be something where, this year he really takes off. He has one of those rises and has a statistical rise just from an accounting stats perspective this year. Not so much just like, hey, he's incredibly efficient. Hey, he gets a tons of yards after contact. Hey, he breaks every single tackle. No, we're going to put up a ton of yards this season. And that's why I think he could be one of those guys that breaks into that top 5 and, could be really high in the rankings next year. I honestly wish he came out this past year. I've said that before. But, one of those risers for me.
Definitely. I think one thing that came into the play there is like the crowded running back group that we have in this class. I think you maybe looked at it and said, yeah, you could say Jed Fish said that, but Jed Fish doesn't want his ass to transfer because when you're looking at his roster, he needs to rely on Coleman a lot. I mean, he likes Coleman because obviously he recruited him to Arizona. He's a 3-star kid from California. He went there. I loved Coleman. Like when he came out his freshman year, I talked about him a lot. I said, hey, this kid's really good. I think he is one of the best backs in the country. I think that he is getting slept on. I think he's a top 5 back for sure. So if he's outside the top 5, that needs to change. Like, what has Justice Haynes done that Jonah Coleman hasn't? Maybe that's a question I got to start looking at too, right? Like, I think it's always about perceived value and ceiling play. So yeah, Jonah can do that. I think he's underrated as a pass catcher too. I think he can be a 3-down guy. Pass blocking, something's got to work on. But I think he's going to test pretty well at 5'9", 229, if that's what he is. Like, if he's really at 229, I think he might test well for that. So I think you'd be excited about that in terms of what he could be. And I think that's a great call. Like, I really do. I went off the board. I didn't go with any of the guys in the rankings in terms of that. I took Bryson Washington. Now, before I get into Bryson Washington, running back from Baylor, I want to give a shout out. I wish I remembered his name, but I do appreciate you, buddy. You've been talking to me about Bryson Washington for 2 years, and every time we do a show, you put in there, have you watched Bryson Washington yet? I don't know what you're insinuating, sir. Like, I don't know if you think I haven't watched Bryson Washington, but I wanted to give Bryson Washington, not just for our lovely viewers out there, some flowers. I did want to talk about him in terms of he could be getting slept on out here. Like, when you think of what he's able to do. So he played 2 years at Baylor. First year, didn't do anything. 10 attempts, nothing there. This last year, 2024. So here's some of the numbers. 1,035 yards off only 177 attempts. So you like that. Average about 5.8 yards per attempt. He had 12 touchdowns. Run grade 87.9 PFF run grade. So from that perspective, looked really good in some big games this year for Baylor. And when you look at what he did down the stretch, I mean, the numbers were pretty crazy as he got better through the year. TCU, which was a huge game for Baylor, 196 yards, 4 touchdowns. West Virginia, 123 yards, 3 touchdowns. Houston, 113 yards. Against Kansas, 192 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now, LSU game, he only had 5 snaps. 5 attempts, 5 snaps. I'm pretty sure he got banged up in that game or whatever happened. So he didn't see anything in the bowl game there. But in those other games, when you saw him, he was dang special. Like, just looking at just the raw numbers there, 29 missed tackles for us, which is fine. Did average over 4 yards after contact per attempt, though. And that's a pretty good number for what he is, right? He is not an explosive. So when you're thinking of the tape, that's what's going to ding him a little bit. Like 10 plus runs, explosive runs that he had, the 10 plus yards, 23. So not a lot. But when you watch him and you watch his tape, he does have some quick feet and ability to kind of make things happen within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage, like make guys miss and do that. He is more of your bruiser. He's not going to be that high level, like explosive back that you usually would attribute to this. He's not like a Jonah Coleman explosiveness there, but man, when you put it on the tape though, like, and I know Jay doesn't watch tape. I don't know what the numbers say. He'll probably tell us here in a second, but just from the tape perspective, he's got quick feet, able to make guys miss. He can turn a 3-yard run into a 6-yard run. These are things that you like to see. Now, he can get better, though, and he can really go. And he's a hell of a north-south guy. Like, he gets down downfield, he gets down there quick, has the ability to kind of make one guy miss and go. And he doesn't go down the first tackle. Those arm tackles aren't doing that. So those are the things you like about his profile. And with me saying, there's things in his profile I know need to get better, but if he gets a crease in a hole, he's able to he can score on it too. It's not like he's completely dead when he's running downhill. But there are times where he does get caught from behind.
I think I might be rubbing off on you a little bit because Bryson Washington's profile from a numbers perspective looks good.
Pretty good.
Yeah. Yards per team play above the line in year 2. Receptions market share above the line in year 2, positive rush yards over expected. That's exactly what you want to see. And he's going to, if he has another good season, then he can be an early declare as well. I don't know if we've talked about, whether he's going to come back for his next year, but he's that early declare guy with 2 good years, 2 out of 3 really good years. The first year, not as much going on, but 2 out of 3 years, that's a great profile. I'm going to love that. And then it just comes down to, does he get the draft capital? So I love this pick. This is a great off the board pick. We got Jonah Coleman, Jaden Knott, Desmond Reed, Mekhi Hughes, Katron Allen, Jam Miller, lots of great, interesting picks there. And this is a great one that comes kind of off the board there. Not one that a lot of people are talking about. So sort of a hidden gem. And he does have a good data profile from like all the market share, experience adjusted stuff that I look at.
Yeah. And this is a kid is not getting drafted in the first 5 rounds of ADP based on now. And so this is a guy that maybe you can draft right late and just, you see that value bump, even if it's not first round bump, that's okay. That's not what you're looking for. What you're looking for is any type of bump there late in those profiles and late there. So that's why I didn't give him a shout out. And shout out that one Baylor fan that watches us. I wish I remember. I know who you are. I just cannot think off the top of my head. But I remember you always talking about Bryson Washington. I have turned on the tape. I've watched him play, but I really dived into his all 22 over the last, basically this offseason. So I want to give him a little shout out. I think he deserves it. All right, let's go 27, 28 classes. So running back classes here combined for the true freshmen coming in the class last year. Our top 5, Nate Frazier, Caden Durham, James Peoples. We're the only ones that have James Peoples in the top 5, but that's all right. We love that. Jaden Baugh, and then James Simon, Texas running back, 2028 kid. So basically one 2028 kid and everybody else is from the 27 class. Next up out here, Bo Jackson going to Ohio State, Shakai Mills-Knight going to Auburn, Alvin Henderson, Quentin Martin Jr., Nolan James, Osman Kroma, I think is how you say it, Jordan Marshall, Isaac Brown out there. Jay, what do you think of this class? Interesting, because I think there's a lot of room for movement here. And then who did you pick?
Yeah, I picked Osman Kroma. I think he's special.
Going to Florida State. Everybody out
going to
there.
Florida State. He was committed to Georgia. He's going to Florida State. Isaac Brown is a really, really good one. I think that numbers wise, he looks really good. The freshman class coming in, Kroma is my number 1.
Okay.
I have a lot of guys over James Simon who we have in our top 5 here, but that it's not just us. We got Christian in there as well for who's doing the top 5 there. There's a lot of really good prospects here, but I think Kroma is got to be my favorite one here.
Okay.
6 foot, 205. I think he's got the frame and the body to get into the 220s by the time he's going in the NFL. I think he's really special. I think he's has the whole 3-down capability. Every time he touches the ball, it's a highlight reel. And he's running people over, and it's quite amazing actually when you watch him play. I don't think he is an early enrollee, so it might take some time for him to ramp, but I think what he is he's special. For his high school stats in total, he had about 4,600 yards ish, which it came out to be about 129 yards, 55 rush TDs, about 1,400 receiving yards, and 40 receiving yards per game. I do think this is there's not much to pick through on the Florida State offense from a Devy perspective. I do think Deuce is interesting, but I think maybe he doesn't get off to an incredibly hot start, but I think Kroma eventually is really, really special. And I think the thing that gets me the most is that I think that he's got that NFL potential. A lot of times you're not exactly sure when they're coming out of high school if they're gonna hit in college, first of all, but then do they have the traits and everything? Do they develop into that NFL guy? I think Kroma's one of those guys that can you'll see it pretty soon, pretty early, develop into the NFL level caliber type of guy pretty early, because there's not much at Florida State. I think he'll probably get a chance at some point here this year to make an impact.
It's a weird running back room because Rodell Williams is still there. It feels like Rodell Williams has played there for, I swear to God, like 7 years. Like he's been there a while. Cam Davis last year. Remember Cam Davis, true freshman coming in? Like people liked Cam Davis a lot. So he's still there. Samuel Singleton's still there. Jalen Lucas is still there. So like, while I think Kroma is talented, like I think if you put him in there, he would fight with Cam Davis. There is like a weird, like it's loaded. Then you have Tommy Castellanos, however you say his last name.
At QB,
At QB, who's a rushing upside type kid too, like that kind of, that dual threat kid. You might have to wait. So like when I wrote my C2C kind of draft guide to kind of help people in turn, I said, hey, the reason why he might be a little lower in some rankings for me, especially in C2C or, right away, is I don't know if I see an avenue right away. Like you said, he's going to take some time, but Florida State doesn't have, this is it. Like for Norvell, he's got to get his crap together. They won 1 game last year. So if they're looking at it and saying, hey, we need to put talent in, Norvell's going to be like, okay, maybe Kroma's our guy. And he did. Like you watch the tape, he was a man amongst boys on his huddle tape. Like you're just laughing at kind of some of the stuff that transfers over. So I do like that call there. I took Isaac Brown from Louisville, and I went back and forth because I've seen some hate out there for Isaac Brown. And I will say this. I was going to take Bo Jackson from Ohio State. I've talked about him too much, though. So this is a show that I want to talk about someone new. I absolutely love Bo Jackson. I think he's Jahmyr Gibbs light. I've talked about it enough. So if you haven't seen that, you haven't seen me talk about it, just know I am a Bo Jackson truther, and it hurts me. Shakai Mills, too. I like both of those guys. But I want to talk about Isaac Brown because I wanted to get kind of not a true freshman in here. And when you look at what Isaac Brown did last year as a true freshman, he made history at Louisville. He's the first ever running back at the program to rush for 1,000 yards. He actually broke Lamar Jackson freshman rushing record. He had 1,078 yards, 11 touchdowns on just 165 carries. He averaged 7.3 yards per attempt. He also had 30 catches for 152 yards and a touchdown. And to me, his explosiveness is what sets him apart as a back. He ranks second in the nation in rushes of 40 plus yards. So he is a big play threat, right? He has efficiency too, 4.06 yards after contact per attempt, elusiveness, 37 missed tackles for us. He's a valuable asset. I think he can be a playmaker. I know his size is the concern. It is 5'9", 190 is a concern there. And I think he's playing with a pretty good back. If you didn't know who Duke Watson is a legitimately talented Louisville back out there. But his playmaking just sets him apart. And while I think the biggest detractor for me, for most out there, is going to be that is the size. I think from just an explosive standpoint, I'm all in. I think he's a lot of fun, man. He's a hell of a back, and his elusive rating over 100 this freshman year. I'm excited about Isaac Brown and what he can do in that offense this year.
Yeah, and like the numbers sort of match that. I'd say the only, like you mentioned a couple times, is just weight, and then how that translates to the NFL. But really, market share perspective from yards per team play, reception yards, really high, like very high for a first year.
Oh, yeah.
So you can see why people are very, very excited about this and get another couple of years of that, and you have really great numbers. And so yeah. Definitely excited. The worry, like you said, is just weight thing here. But, a really interesting group. We mentioned a couple of guys, Jordan Marshall too. Mm-hmm. He had a bowl game against Alabama. He had 24 attempts, 87 yards. He started to make some noise. You have Justice Haynes transferring there, but I'm hearing Jordan Marshall's doing really well in spring as well. So keep an eye out for him as could be a riser as well. So I like, there's a lot of potential in the underclassmen running backs. Don't exactly know who's going to shake out. We're highlighting a couple of guys that we haven't talked too much about quite yet. But I like this group of running backs. I want to take lots of shots at these guys in Devy drafts.
This two groups, the 27-28, are much better than the 26 as a whole. Like I would take, there's so much talent in the 27-28 class. I really enjoy watching these guys on tape. And the guy that we've been pounding the table for, James Peoples. But I really go check a look at Auburn Shakai Mills Knight. Go take a look at him. Like he's a lot of fun to watch. And he's just someone out there that I think, and we're going to keep saying this till he gets on the damn field. Quentin Martin Jr. from Penn State has a possibility of being the best unknown back that we know that's out there. But he just, with Katron and Singleton being there, it's going to be a problem getting him in there. But yeah, everything we've heard from 247 reports is Jordan Marshall from Michigan is absolutely dominating. Like he's looking fantastic. But they also said Donovan Edwards could win the Heisman last year. So there is a caveat with a lot of those reports out there. I don't want to just lead you astray. Like there is a question mark in terms of that for sure. All right, let's jump over to wide receivers. So the 26 wide receiver class. Here's our top 10 right now. And we've talked about this in nauseum. There's a question marks throughout. So that, this really is the Wild West. Anybody could go at wide receiver 1 in the 26 class. So here's our top 10 for now. Carnell Tate, Jordan Tyson, Eugene Wilson III, Antonio Williams, Eric Singleton, Kevin Concepcion, Evan Stewart, Mekhi Lemon, Barian Brown, Zachariah Branch. I will say I'm very upset because I first read it, as my wife would know, I don't really pay attention that much at the beginning. I kind of read through it. I thought Mekhi Lemon wasn't in the top 10, so I was going to pick him. But then I went back and I was like, damn it, there's Mekhi Lemon. Because I do think Mekhi's got a little Amon-Ra St. Brown in him. Like he's got a little upside there from what we saw, but I couldn't pick him there. Next up on the board that we could choose from, Dane Key's out there, obviously Nebraska now. Aaron Anderson is my sweetheart. I love me some Aaron Anderson. Deion Burks, Deuce Robinson, as Jay mentioned a little earlier, from Florida State. Jacoby Lane, Elijah Sarah, Jeremy Bernard, J.C. Brown, Jaden Greathouse, Brandon Ennis. And really, I don't know how much of a difference there's between Carnell Tate and Brandon Ennis. I really don't. Like, from a talent perspective, that's what makes this class so interesting. Where are you at with this class, and then who did you go with?
I think this is an interesting class. I think this is a down year for wide receivers. I like a few of these guys better than others. I think Mekhi Lemon, is incredibly undervalued.
Yes.
I think that's somebody guy that goes up. There's certain guys in this class that I like a lot. There's certain guys, but what I'd say is, like, there's no just like, from freshman year all the way through year 3, just like, wire to wire best wide receiver in the class. I don't see that in this class. We thought maybe Zachariah Branch when we were first going through it, but I'm not sure you can say that. There's even the guys that are at the top here. Carnell Tate doesn't have that much market share, and you can explain that away with the players that he's played with at Ohio State. But at some point, you gotta be the market share of the team. And Jordan Tyson, bad knees, injuries, issues. And so there's question marks basically on every single one. I went with Jeremy Bernard. I like your pick as well. I think Jeremy Bernard is a little bit underrated. I think Alabama wide receiver room is going to be pretty good this year. And I like him being a part of it. And I think that maybe a little overlooked last year, but this year I think is where it really takes off. He's 6'1", 209 pounds, so sort of, got that thicker frame for a wide receiver. This will be his year 4. In year 1, he played for Michigan State. In year 2, he played at Washington behind the big trio, Roma Dunze, Jalen Polk, those guys, McMillan. Year 3 was at Alabama last year, a pretty decent year. And he stays at Alabama this year. Comes over with DeBoer, so it's not like as bad as it sounds. With three new teams in 3 years, he kind of goes with the coach kind of thing. But that's sort of was year 3, 50 receptions, 73 targets for nearly 800 yards and 2 touchdowns, just over 50% in the slot. So they did use him quite a bit in the slot. 5.6 DX per reception. His best year yards per route run was in year 3 at 2.24. His first downs per route run, I really like that metric, first downs per route run. It tells you who the quarterback looks for in a tough situation. 10.4%. That threshold for me is 10%. His career is 9.7%. So I think if he has another good year, his career first downs per route run jumps up over 10%. I like that. Contested catch rate, 50%. His experience adjusted metrics, so like reception yards per team, pass depth, he's above the line in year 3, and EPA per play, he's just above the line in year 3. Like we talked about before, I think Ty Simpson is looking like the guy that might walk away as the starter, assuming no injury in that group, just because of the experience. But I think Keelan Russell maybe over time. So, the thing about the wide receiver room is you got Ryan Williams there. Ryan Williams is a phenomenal freshman, like one of the reclassified. So he's one of the youngest guys in the group. You talk about Jeremiah Smith and then Ryan Williams next up, almost in the same sentence. He draws a lot of attention. You got to transfer in Isaiah Horton coming. He'll probably draw some attention. And so I think Jeremy Bernard in this situation has a chance to really eat. He's a guy that he's tough. He blocks. He'll take it over the middle and take the hit. I think people rely on him. I think they rely on him to get the first down when it's crunch time. I think Ty Simpson has a chance to go to Jeremy Bernard with mismatches and hit them up. The other thing I'd mention is, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this in the next one, but there's young guys at Alabama. There always is young guys at Alabama, but there's some young guys. Jalen Hale's back. There's some interesting freshmen. Derek Meadows, he's huge. He's big. He's 6'4". And Loiser Brooks as a slot guy has been lighting it up in camp, and we're going to talk about him. But it's an incredible room to think about from that perspective, from a wide receiver perspective. But I think what that means is there's going to be opportunity because the attention is going to be drawn away from other places. I think Jeremy Bernard has a chance to be a big part of this Alabama offense this year. So I like the pick. I think he could be one of those guys that rises. I think he's he's a good player. I think, top 5, he could even well be the first wide receiver, because I think he has that potential in this group.
Yeah, man, I was high on him last year. I don't know whether it was a Moreau thing, right? Like, I don't know if like it was the
Probably.
offensive thing or whatever, but damn it, like I expect a little bit more from him, but at least he did okay, right? At least he had that. I think the touchdowns was the problem for the most part. I will say this, man, like, and not to take away from Bernard or your pick at all. I don't want to be that guy. Isaiah Horton is killing it in camp. And like, now that I think about it, like I was going through it. I mean, I'll take Jacoby Lane from USC. That's who I picked. But man, Horton, I just keep hearing just how great his connection with Ty Simpson is. I did not know this till I researched a little bit today. I guess they were 7-on-7 teammates like through high school. That was his guy. And he talked about how much he loved him. That's the reason why he went to Alabama. So that's why Ty Simpson to me makes a little bit of sense as a quarterback as well this year. But him and Horton have been really connecting. So, I mean, if Bernard can really take that next step, I mean, we could be like sleeping on Alabama's wide receiver room, which is kind of crazy to say out loud because they are talented. They're always talented. But they've had some down years the last few years, like to Alabama's standard. Maybe now we're looking at it like maybe they should flip it a little bit because Bernard, like you mentioned, Ryan, if Horton steps up, I know you talked about, we want to talk about a couple of freshmen there. Talented for sure. Now, my pick, is a hard one because I like Jacoby Lane from USC a lot. Like when you're looking at what he did last year, just the raw numbers were not crazy amazing. Was a little banged up. Had some big outlier games. 43 catches on 66 targets. He had about 500 yards receiving, 525. 12 touchdowns, though. So he definitely scored a ton of touchdowns, especially down the stretch. He had 6 touchdowns, 3 against Notre Dame and 3 against Texas A&M in their bowl game. So definitely kind of played well. Him and Mekhi Lemon played amazing in the bowl game that they had there. Now, when you're looking at just from his receiving grade, 72.8, which isn't amazing there. Where did he usually play? Out wide. So he's kind of that prototypical X-ish, 6'4", 195, good frame, good size that you like to see there. Yards per route run is the problem, 1.64. However, when the big games down the stretch, he averaged about 2.58, 2.6. So maybe role will shift. Zachariah Branch not being there, maybe they will look to get him down the field. And this is a film-based thing. Dude can catch. Like when he gets the ball thrown to him, like he makes some acrobatic catches. He makes some great catches in the red zone. I think the question for Lane that he's got to answer this year is, can you separate deep? Because is the reason why he's not getting the ADOT, the yards per out run, is the reason why, is it a scheme? And I don't love USC's scheme out there with Riley. I'm not a big fan of it. Is it a scheme, or is it that he just can't create separation at the top of his route stem? Is it because he can't get that extra oomph out there in terms of yards after catch? Like, is there a reason for that? Because when you watch the tape, he can catch. Like with his targets, I would have credited him probably 1 or 2 drops on the year. He had one bad one. If I can remember, I thought it was maybe the Penn State game that he had one bad one. But overall, like contested catch percentage is pretty good. Like his ability to go up and get the football is great, right? And in this room, it's him and Mekhi Lemon. They lost everybody else. Literally, they lost everybody else. So I think Lane can get peppered targets. He's probably going to have over 100. And in a down class, maybe he shows that he can separate and do that stuff where he could maybe jump up to the 1.
Yeah. When you see games like 7 receptions on 8 targets for 127 yards and 3 touchdowns in the bowl game, that's the last game you're left with. Oh, well, of course you can feel and you can see the momentum there from him. I wrote down in the show notes, absolutely insane catches. I was just watching some of these highlights from him, and it's absolutely incredible. He just puts his hand out there and plucks the ball. There were even some games where he had a big brace on his arm, and he just sticks the arm up and in traffic and catches it. It's absolutely insane, some of the catches that he makes. So he's certainly got the potential. My issue has been market share of an offense. Can he command a significant market share of this offense? And you said you have a lot of you have Zachariah Branch, Deuce Robinson, guys. A lot of guys moving on. If it's him and Mekhi Lane, can he get 26% target share? Can he get almost 30% target share? And can he handle that for a season? That's what I need to see next year. 6'4" is very, very intriguing. Love to see him put on just a little bit more weight to kind of round out the profile. I think when I'm watching him, he looks really, really skinny, but it might just be how tall he is. But it's a really cool, fun guy to watch if he can put up 127 yards and 3 touchdowns in one game and put up these like ridiculous high, Sports Center top 10 catches type of things for a full season. That's a guy that definitely could rise quite a bit with those insane catches.
To be clear, I do think his teammate Mekhi Lemon could be the one. Like, he's in our top 10, so we couldn't pick him. But dang, he was a converted corner / wide receiver in high school, coming out of high school. He's really shown something, and the coaching staff loves the kid too. So, like, I think both those guys could be one of those things that we're thinking of, like, could pop up. I mean, that wide receiver room's wide open. Like, Kevin Concepcion could be that guy. Eric Singleton. I mean, these guys could just be like, and it's not necessarily a topping class for wide receiver talent. So that's the other thing too. If you play Dynasty and you're thinking of, all right, I really need a wide receiver, you might want to move a 26 first for a wide receiver. And you can look at it like, hey, can I get 2 years of production from like a wide receiver 2 type? That's great. I don't see a ton of wide receiver 1s yet, not profile wise.
Yeah, which is different because the 2027 class has a lot of first round wide receivers. So maybe you move the 2026 first for the 2027 first and change and then get that extra wide receiver. But yeah, that doesn't help you win right now. But overall, from a value perspective, that might work. So, but we've talked Dane Key. We've talked about him. He had a transfer to Nebraska. Elijah Rasad, I featured him before. J.C. Brown looks really, really good from a numbers perspective. Playing with Avery Johnson, that could be really, really interesting. Brandon Inniss, you mentioned him right off the bat. He's getting his shot at the slot. He's getting his shot where Emeka Egbuka is and Jackson Smith-Njigba played. He's coming in. He's a very, very high regarded recruit. I think that he could be in for a really good season this year. He could be a big riser. Currently, doesn't get selected in the top 5 rounds very much for being the slot wide receiver at Ohio State. So I like him. I think it could be a pretty interesting guy as well in this group.
Yeah, no, 100%. All right, let's look at kind of going over towards this. I got to go through. Do I have it up? Yeah, I do. All right, 27, 28 wide receiver classes, loaded, as we've pointed out. Jeremiah Smith, Ryan Williams, Cam Coleman, TJ Moore, Bryant Wesco, Ryan Wingo, DeCorian Moore. That's a 2028 guy. Nick Marsh, Jerome Miles, and Vernell Brown third get in there. I hate myself for being so high on Vernell Brown the third, because if I wasn't so high, he wouldn't be inside this top 10. I could have picked him. So screwed myself there. If you don't know who Vernell Brown the third is, he's at Florida, absolutely crushing it, and according to 247 reports. I'm just letting everybody know out there. Florida's got a guy coming in, Vernell Brown. They got a few guys out there. Jamie French as well. You could throw him in there. There's some guys in that range that you can go into as next possibles outside the top 10, which is very hard to have in here. I'm going to be honest. This is the one where no one's going to be Jeremiah Smith. So we're really talking about who could be wide receiver 2, because no one's going to go to that range there. But Mika Hudson, I don't know where he's at. I'm not sure if he's still playing football or not. He's on our next possibles. Perry Thompson's out there. Khalil Lockett, Derek Meadows, Caleb Cunningham, Malcolm Simmons, Dallas Wilson, Andrew Marsh, Jamie French, and those guys there. But who did you go with? This is a fun one for me because I did not expect you to take this kid. So talk to me about him.
This is not a guy that I have ranked above a lot of those guys that you heard, but this is a guy that's like a very far down in the 247 sports rankings. But what I'm hearing from camp is really, really interesting. I'm going with Loiser Brooks. This is not usually my type of guy. This is a 5'9", 188 slot guy. He's a true freshman playing in a very, very crowded room. If you're watching the highlights, if you see the Alabama highlights out there, I think he's 17 this year. Speedy slot receiver with a high football IQ. That's basically what it is. He had a ton of production in high school. His freshman year, 37 catches for 971 yards, 15 touchdowns. Sophomore year, 69 catches for 1,000 yards and 89 yards, 1,089 yards and 14 touchdowns. Junior year, 61 receptions, 1,200 yards and 22 TDs. Senior year, I think it was about 48 receptions, 1,100 yards and 14 TDs. Basically, every single year he played in high school, he had over 1,000 yards and a ton of touchdowns. This guy produced a ton in high school. I like that. I do think that to some extent, high school production translates to college production, and if you get the college production that translates to NFL production, that kind of stuff is interesting to me. I like that. The size profile is something I don't usually like. I got turned on to him by Josh Chevalier, CFF guys on Twitter at Fantasy Points. He referenced him and what he was hearing from some of the reports out of the spring ball out of Alabama, and he referenced Zachariah Branch. And so this what we maybe didn't get from Zachariah Branch out of USC and what he could be, we might be seeing at Alabama with Laser Brooks here early on. And I, like I said, I don't know how he gets on the ball, or on the field and gets production this year. I just think that they have to put him on because he's like that type of dynamic type of player that you want to get on the field somehow. And so maybe in games where they're really far up on a player, maybe, or up on a team, maybe he's that first guy in that then gets some work and stuff like that. And that's what I was kind of going for. It's somebody that's sort of way down the board that might be a riser that could be interesting. And you hear stuff during camp. Sometimes it's justified, sometimes it's not. You never know exactly how this plays out. And Alabama is certainly a crowded room, so the odds might be in against my favor here. But I do like what I'm hearing. I do like what the production that he had in high school, and I think he's a really interesting pick that you can, in your freshman drafts and your supplemental drafts, you don't have to take him in the first round. He's not one of the first round guys. So you get him, back of the second, third round, something like that. Then it becomes sort of a value. And there's guys I like in the 2028, 2027 class that I've ranked above him that don't fit into that top 10 group. But I think this is an interesting guy to take a look at.
No, I love that call because I know Josh really well, and he talked about him, and you see it, and you love like what he can do, right? Like if he's the real Zachariah Branch, although I'm mad about that because I still got faith, Zach. Prove me wrong out there in Georgia. I think that if he can be that's what you're excited for, right? The production and everything there. I'm going to take another true freshman coming in, and that's his name is Khalil Lockett. He's playing at Texas right now. Unfortunately for me and my Ryan Wingo love, he's injured this spring. So it looks like, they're kind of working with some other. DeAndre Moore is looking pretty good in spring and all that. Well, that helps Khalil Lockett. So when you're looking at what Khalil Lockett did just in high school and what he's from what his profile is, 6'2", 185. He actually was the number 2 wide receiver as a prospect, according to 247 Sports. So they're really high on him. When you're thinking about kind of what he does as a prospect, you have to like his profile. You have to like his playmaking ability. And there's opportunity at Texas for a wide receiver to really kind of come out of nowhere, right? Like I think that he can be that guy. He is one of the most polished route runners in the class. When I was going through his tape, very, very elite athleticism and natural instincts, like really good there. Nightmare one-on-one matchup. Him and Arch Manning together, like one-on-one and just identifying that weak corner. It's going to be fun because I think that his hands and catch radius allows him to win at everywhere on the field. As a junior, he had 12, almost 1,300 yards, 13 touchdowns, and he averaged 22 yards per reception. So when you're thinking of like big play guy, those type of things you have to love about him. Has a very, very solid track background. Has ability to kind of separate himself. Could be a future wide receiver 1 type guy. Like Lockett can be that guy out there. When I'm looking at my rankings, I have him at 3 for me. I have DeCorian Moore from Oregon at 1. I have Vernell Brown at 2, and I have Lockett at 3. So I'm pretty high on Lockett. And I think just from like camp news, all of that stuff that you talk about, Lockett could be the guy that rises up the board.
Yeah, I like Lockett too. I think I have him ranked higher than Laser Brooks.
Yeah,
I think
that's okay.
he's pretty interesting, and you get to play in Texas. If Arch Manning's the quarterback for the next 2 years, you got Ryan Wingo on the other side. There's some guys there in the some guys that'll probably play ahead of him, but I think he's a pretty well ready recruit coming out. So I think that this is a guy that will definitely be a riser. You'll probably get to know him a lot better over the next couple of years. So I like him as a pick.
All right, let's jump into tight ends. We're going to just go through the classes, and then we're going to kind of give you a thoughts of the tight end class. So 26 class, our top 5, Luke Haas, little bit of buzz out there for my guy Jay Stein's guy out there at Ole Miss. Seems like he's doing okay at 247 Sports in terms of the camp ratings. Lawson Lucky's out there. Justin Jolly, Kenyon Sadiq from Oregon, Andrew Rapala out there at Penn State. From next possible guys, Oscar Delp's still there. RJ Maryland got a little banged up last year for SMU is back. Eli Stowers from Vanderbilt, Jack Velling, Ellie Raridon, Max Clary out there at Ohio State, Arliss Boardingham, Benjamin Brahmer, John Michael Gillenberg. Not a very good class yet. Like there's some guys that can definitely pop off and do those things. In the next classes, you have Trades Green, who's kind of consensus out there, but he's kind of converted wide receiver-ish right now out there at LSU. Like when I was going through some of their depth chart stuff, so that might muddy things up in terms of the tight end class. Jaden Reddle is out there, Luke Reynolds, Caleb Odom, Christian Bencora, Landon Thomas, Gavin Hoffman, Lincoln Cure, some of those true freshmen coming in. But general thoughts on tight ends. I don't have a lot to say, but any thoughts out there?
Yeah, I mean, generally for a Devy perspectives, I like to take tight ends very late because I think you can get guys that could be in the potential top of their class very, very late in Devy drafts, if at all, if you even need to at all, depending on what type of stuff you're playing in. Luke Haas is, like you said, was my guy. That's an interesting one. Kenyon Sadiq, I think, is pretty interesting. Justin Jolly looks good from a numbers perspective. There's lots of maybes, but no like Brock Bowers guys in here. No. I wanted to mention really quick, Max Clare comes over from Purdue to Ohio State, 6'4", 240 pounds. He actually had some production last year for Purdue. 2.22 yards per route run, 11% yards, first downs per route run. Hit the experience adjusted metrics. I think at Ohio State, he could be maybe sort of like that Cade Stover type. If you remember Cade Stover's year, he in his draft year, he was taken by the Texans in the 4th round. Not like game-breaking thing, but not a game-breaking tight end, but maybe sort of Mr. Reliable for maybe Julian Sagan or whoever ends up being the Ohio State quarterback. And so that's an interesting one, only because there is some production there and that guy's outside of the top 5. I like Jack Veling. There's some other ones they're kind of interesting. It's hard to take tight ends in those underclassmen classes. So the 27, 28 class is really, really hard to go down to those levels. I just be cautious because every single year there's, we rank the tight ends, we have our favorites, but like they don't accrue value very well. There's very few of them that do. So it's really hard to like base your strategy on selecting these tight ends. So just be careful. I think Trades Green is really, really interesting. And so I like him as maybe a guy that could go do well this year and sort of rise up into the top 5 for next year. But it's really, really tough to get these tight ends right.
But here's the issue, and this is what happens with tight ends, is they change their position on you. Deuce Robinson. Remember, we talking about Deuce Robinson going to USC, and we said, oh man, look at the tight end position. He's a cheat code. Well, now he's a wide receiver. So if he's a designated wide receiver, that kind of ruins the value mock of like that tight end. That's why I worry about the tight ends overall. Like Trades Green, now all of a sudden a wide receiver. And I was like, damn it, now I got to change my rankings again. But also that hurts, right? Like, because he did have a pretty good year. There's some guys, I think, Eli Stowers could be interesting just from an NFL draft perspective. But I just go back to Kenyon Sadiq, possibly, like from Oregon. He's in the top 5 anyway, but he's a fun late dart throw. But again, we're going off because he scored 2 touchdowns at the end of the year. That's how nasty the position is, right? Like that's just kind of the position as a whole. It's just gross there. All right, let's wrap this thing up. We're getting along, but it's all right. There's a fun show in terms of who's got next in that range. Any final thoughts on the classes as a whole? Obviously, we have our rankings and we have our combined rankings and we have all this stuff to help you here. But any thoughts on like who's got next? Some guys maybe either we didn't mention or just something in general you want to mention?
Yeah, I mean, the goal here was to talk about some new guys that, everybody will see those top 5, maybe top 7, top 10 guys. You'll see those over and over again. And we're trying to give you guys that you don't see over and over again and sort of profile those guys because in Devy, it's about that. every year there's going to be new guys that come out what seemingly looks like nowhere to be kind of closer to the top of the class, maybe in the top 5. And that's the goal here, is to find those guys for you maybe a year or before it actually happens. And so that's what we like. Of course, don't crush us, because of course Arch Manning and Lagway are our favorites in those classes. Of course they are. Those would be our picks. Those are the top QBs. But let's try and find some guys that are outside of that have a really good shot of hitting. And if you look for different things, you look for what the roster looks like, what the coach looks like. What's the potential for the year? What are the NFL traits? What's the production been? What kind of market share do they have? What kind of market share potential do they have? All those things go into it, and we hope that we're trying to give you the best shots here. But this is Devy. This is not easy. We try our best to increase our probabilities, but this is not easy. It's take what all that content you hear from rookie drafts and finding those gems and stuff like that, and how often those hit. This is even expanded to an even greater level with a lot more players and a lot more teams. And so it's a tough slug, but we try our best to highlight guys that could have a shot.
Yeah, that's what we're doing here. We're just trying to project guys that come in there, but I think that we had to hit on some good ones. And again, just to recap, in terms of 26 class, Avery Johnson, Cade Klubnik were our 2 picks there. Could rise up a little bit. In the 27-28, I took Malik Washington at Maryland. He took Deuce Knight at Auburn. In the running back group in the 26 class, I picked Bryson Washington from Baylor. Jay got Jonah Coleman out there in Washington. And then in the other 2 classes, I took Isaac Brown from Louisville. He took Osmane Kroma. I need to learn how to say the name if I'm going to say it.
Kroma,
the next 3 years of my life. So he took him out of Florida State. From the wide receiver perspective, I took Jacoby Lane. He took Jeremy Bernard in the 26th class. In the other 2, Ladzier Brooks, who seems to be having an amazing 247. Sports has talked about his camp right now out there at Alabama. I took Khalil Lockett from Texas. Again, kind of the same mindset there. And just ideas like, hey, who could maybe potentially rise in value? And I get this question a ton, and I keep talking about it. Your goal in Devy is never just yes, you want to get Jeremiah Smith. That's fine. But you want to try to find those value plays to where you can go win on your dynasty side. I know a lot of people don't play the format or don't even do content as much for the format anymore, but we do. So our identity is trying to identify how do you win your leagues there? You got to win on the dynasty side. You don't get Devy money, right? So the best way to do it is to get assets to collect value. A lot of these guys that we picked are going to have increases in value. At some point in the season, I would be shocked to see any of these guys go down in value, right? I really think that they all could rise up in value, with the one caveat being maybe the 26 wide receiver class, because I don't know what's going on there. But because there's so much unknowns, probably a possibility too. Probably going to go up in value for that reason. So we hope you guys had fun in this. If you are watching on YouTube, we always appreciate you guys. You can drop your comments below. Go check out the podcast, though, if you want to listen to it for a long period of time. We're seeing a bunch of numbers there, so we appreciate that. And check out our Substack, our Patreon. If you're into Devy or Dynasty, we have rankings throughout. We have all kinds of different content out there. You can find it in the description below. We'll be back next week.